So, I just beat the DLC for Sea of Stars, which is Throes of the Watchmaker. This thing is short and absolute gas. This is the first ever DLC that I've ever played, mainly because it was free, but also because once I finish a game, I normally move on to the next one and don't look back. But with this, it was different. The DLC beautifully picks up right after the ending of the campaign and builds upon it by delving into the lore of the Watchmaker. From what I remember, she didn't do too much in the original game, but here we find out that the Fleshmancer and her work together and were great pals at one stage. However, this all came to an end once he cooked her by creating an evil doppelganger during the creating of the Clockwork Castle. I'm telling y'all, nothing ever good comes from working with a Foral. Another thing I liked about this DLC was that it made our main characters, Zale and Valir, a lot more interesting. While I didn't hate them, they were definitely boring and offered little to no value personality-wise. To put this into perspective, throughout the original game, you're playing it for about 30 plus hours, and there were plenty more interesting characters than them. For instance, Garl, Sarai, Kael, and Erlina. However, in the DLC, they are made much more interesting by having to overcome their shadow twins, which gives them another layer. And it makes them more interesting than as opposed to, we're just gonna stop the bad guy and other generic lines like that. With Zale, his shadow self is called the Narcissus King, and this was beautifully reflected in the statues, puzzles, and design of his kingdom. There were even moments when Zale started to doubt himself and wonder if he was as vain as the Narcissus King. As for Valir, her shadow self is the Feral Queen, and boy is this lady nuts. She forces Valir to acknowledge the part of herself that wants to be more wild, free, and unrestrained, as opposed to being so calm and composed all the time. This resulted in her losing her cool and snapping at Zale a bunch, something she never did in the base game. The game feels fresh, with the puzzles that are easy enough to do for a casual like me, but will have you thinking for a minute once you get to the later stages. In Horlodge and in this world, our Solstice powers were taken away, and we are given Circus ones instead, which gave us new skills and more reasons to be engaged with this package. This game also rewards you for figuring out your enemy's weaknesses, getting the timing right so you can either deal more damage or receive less damage. So even though it's turn-based, it feels a bit more active. This also forces players to carefully consider what moves to make, whether it be to risk it all and take down a boss and their locks, healing your party members, doing multi-hits, or single ones. It truly challenges players to think ahead and not just run in swinging. This ain't Pokemon. The odd thing with Throes of the Watchmaker is that the bosses got easier after the Narcissus King, which was a weird jump in progression, or regression in this case. For example, with the mirrors, the Narcissus King was damn near impossible and I needed guides. But for the rest of these bosses, yeah, I pretty much beat them in 1 to 3 tries. It didn't detract from my enjoyment too much, but it was something worth mentioning. The art design with the pixels will always be home to me. If you're wondering why this is shorter than usual, it's because it's a DLC, but also because I expand on all this stuff more in my Sea of Stars deep dive. So check that out if you haven't already. That aside, this was a good ass game and a fun time. Thanks for watching, y'all, and this is Black Sugar Lovin', out.